Welcome back. In this module, we're now going to look at a different type of equation. So we've looked at rational equations because we dealt with many modules doing operations of fractions. Now we're going to look at a radical equation because, again, in previous modules we dealt with operations of roots. So we know the word radical means root. In this video, we're going to focus solely with square roots. So we're going to work with radical equations. We're going to learn how to solve them when we have a square root symbol in our equation. Well, that's going to be a problem. Your goal is, when you have an equation, is to get the letter x by itself. You want x to the first power, and you do not want it stuck in a symbol. Now, we've seen since Algebra 1, if you have an equation and your x is stuck in parentheses, you use the distributive property to get rid of the parentheses to free the x. Well, that's what we're going to have to do here. When we have a radical equation, the first thing we're going to have to try to do is free our letter x out of the radical sign. So we have 4 steps. They're real simple. The first thing we want to do is isolate the radical symbol. We want the root symbol on the left and everybody else that's not part of the root symbol on the right. Once we get that root symbol isolated, then we're going to get rid of it by doing the inverse operation. And we already know this. What is the opposite of square rooting? Well, the opposite of a root is an exponent. The opposite of square rooting would be the square. So to get rid of the square root, we're going to square both sides. And that would keep balance. Once we get rid of the root symbol, then we'll look and start putting like terms together and getting x by itself. Now, you're going to say, well, this doesn't make sense. This is not important. Again, we're learning skills we don't use in real life. The best analogy I can give you to a radical equation is a house caught on fire, okay? And somebody's trapped inside the house. So think about it. I have the equation, the radical equation, square root of x equals 5. That is not solved. That does not say x equals 5. It says the square root of x equals 5. So the letter x is trapped inside the radical symbol. So that is like a person trapped inside a house that's on fire. The number 5 is you. You see the house on fire. Most normal people are not going to go and run into the house and get the person out. Most normal people are going to call the fire department to have a fireman come and rescue the person. And that's what's going to happen here. Our first job is to isolate our root, to get on the left side the radical symbol, which we have. We have square root of x on the left. We have the number 5 on the right. The house is on fire. It's on the left, and you are across the street, not in the house, so you're across the street on the other side. You're about to call the fireman, and when the fireman comes, you want to put out the fire. The opposite of square root is the square, so if you look at the PowerPoint, we're going to square both sides. That square is like bringing the fireman in. The fireman puts out the fire. So the square and square root on the left are opposite inverse operations. They cancel out. That leaves you x. On the right side, 5 squared is not going to cancel out. You're going to do that operation. 5 squared is 25. Now you have x equals 25. You solve for x. You're done. Now, important, if you solve a radical equation, just like any other equation, you should check your solution. When you check your solution, you always go back to the original equation. So the original equation was square root of x equals 5. I'm going to replace that x with what I found out was the answer, 25. So now I have the square root of 25 equals 5. Does that balance? Well, on the left side, what is the square root of 25? That's a 5. Does 5 equal 5? Yes, it checks. So it's real simple. To solve a radical equation, isolate the root, the radical sign, square root both sides, and then solve. Look at our next one. Square root of 6x plus 4 minus 3 equals 5. It is a radical equation. It has a root symbol. First step is to isolate. Move anything, any term that's not part of the root to the right side. So that negative 3 is not part of the root. So to move it, we'll add it to the other side, and that makes the other side, the right side, 8. Now we have the square root of 6x plus 4 equals 8. We can't move the 6x, we can't move the 4. They're stuck in the house on fire. So now we bring the firemen. To get rid of a square root, we square both sides. Squares and square roots cancel out. On the left side, we're left with 6x plus 4. On the right side, 8 squared is 64. Now you have a simple linear equation. You subtract 4, you divide by 6, you get x is 10. I proved to you it's right in the PowerPoint because I checked that. I substituted 10 in, and I balanced 5 equals 5. So the moral of the story is, to solve a radical equation, you isolate the root, square both sides, solve your equation. And then you check to make sure your answer balances. All right, let's go to the whiteboard.